All right. So we've talked about what in general teaching portfolios are. We've covered the fact that teaching portfolios are structured, they're representative, and they're selective, with sections that relate to each other and evolve over time. So that means that they don't cover everything, right? Representative means that we do want to see examples from all of your teaching experience, the different contexts, like we mentioned earlier, but it won't be exhaustive. It won't be that every paper that you ever used, every document, every file that you ever used to teach with belong in their entirety in a teaching portfolio. Rather, it's going to be selective, right? So we're going to choose items from our teaching experience that are representative of the best of our teaching, the way that we want to teach when we're really at our best, but that are still a snapshot, if you will, a very brief look into what it's like to be your student. And something that I really want you to keep in mind as you are working on creating this GATA portfolio is that the reason that UCAT helps support this process and puts such an emphasis on teaching portfolios in general is that we've found the process of creating a teaching portfolio is generally as important and as meaningful as the end product. And so that's certainly the feedback that we've gotten from past nominees in years past, that they find the process of assembling a teaching portfolio a powerful one. This opportunity to realize that they do important work in their teaching and have something important to offer the university community, future employers, and their students. And that's a great feeling. And often it's also the case that given the chance to reflect on what you're doing, it means you get to do the things you care about more intentionally. So we really support that process. And so I'm excited for you as you are beginning this journey of creating a teaching portfolio to represent yourself to a selection committee for the GATA Award. If this has remained too vague for you, then I want to encourage you to go to the UCAT website, where we have examples of teaching portfolios from previous GATA nominees. Now, it should go without saying, but I will say it nevertheless. You may not use any of these materials as your own in your teaching portfolio, and I hope that that makes you chuckle, but we consistently receive some submissions of folks who have used material from other folk from the example materials we have on our website, so please don't do that. All of these need to be representative of you, and you're the only one who can create those documents. So those are some qualities of teaching portfolios in general. What about the GATA teaching portfolio? The GATA teaching portfolio is a little bit more specific, a little bit more structured than a teaching portfolio you may have to submit in some other context, for example, on the job market, right? And here are the parts that should not be new to you. All of these components are also listed on the graduate school website explaining the nomination process, but we're going to go over each of these in turn, and that's what the rest of the videos are that are listed here. So this year is the first year, 2018 is the first year that the GATA application will be submitted entirely online. So depending on where you look, it's possible you'll see some references to paper submissions, but this year we'd really like you to submit everything online, or the graduate school would, I should say. So the first thing you'll do is fill in applicant information. So this used to take the form of an applicant information sheet, and now it's collected in form-filled boxes on the website. You're also going to write a teaching statement. It should be about 1 to 2 pages, single-spaced. And this is really going to be the document that guides the rest of the portfolio. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about teaching statements because they're very important to understanding who you are as a teacher. And it's really the guiding document for any other portfolio reader. So in some cases, I even recommend gathering the rest of the artifacts, the components for your portfolio, and then writing your teaching statement based on that rather than the other way around. But we'll get to that in a moment. You're also going to need to list your Ohio State teaching responsibilities in 1 to 2 pages. You're going to include an instructional artifact, and that artifact will be, however long the artifact is. Maybe it's a page, maybe it's 2 or 3. And you're also going to include with the artifact a 1-page reflection on your teaching artifact. Then the 5th required element of this teaching portfolio is your evaluative feedback and a summary of that data. Okay? So, what you're going to want to do is summarize and discuss the feedback that you've gathered on your teaching. And you're going to describe any adjustments or improvements that you've made from that feedback in 1 to 2 pages. In addition to that, you're going to include those first 2, A and B, are described, you get to write them over 1 to 2 pages. Part C is a summary of your overall student evaluation of instruction, your SEIs, as we like to call them here. So a summary of your overall scores, and either an SEI report for 1 course or 3 individual student evaluations. And we'll talk more about that when we get to that section. And then you're required to submit 1 letter of recommendation. You have the possibility of submitting a second letter. The first one is required is from a faculty member or a teaching supervisor. The optional letter would be from a student that you've taught before. So those are the specific components of the GATA application portfolio. They are not dissimilar to what any teaching portfolio would contain. The difference between a GATA portfolio and a teaching portfolio for other purposes would be that, for example, the GATA portfolio limits you to 1 instructional artifact. And it might be the case that in a portfolio for a job application, you may want to include multiple to show the range of teaching experiences that you have had, right? Or maybe you would have more than 3 student evaluations, right? So the GATA limitations tend to be not ones of content, right? In terms of there aren't things that GATA asks for that a job application would not ask for, or vice versa. But rather, GATA is just reduced in the quantity. It's really limited that way.